Welcome to Mind Games Unveiled, 20 Emotional Manipulation Techniques, brought to you by Mindful Literary. Imagine walking through life with a hidden map, one that illuminates the unspoken strategies people use to influence, control, and even manipulate others. This book is that map. Here, we'll explore the subtle, and sometimes blatant, tactics manipulators employ and how they exploit emotions like guilt, fear, love, and ambition. But this isn't just about identifying manipulation. It's about empowering you to stand strong against it, to reclaim your confidence, and to navigate relationships with clarity and purpose. Through engaging stories, psychological insights, and practical strategies, we'll unveil the games manipulators play, and more importantly, how you can stay a step ahead. Prepare to see through the illusions, rediscover your inner strength, and step into a life where authenticity and empowerment reign. Let's dive in. Introduction: The Subtle Art of Control. Overview of emotional manipulation and its prevalence in daily life. Emotional manipulation is a term that seems to float in and out of our daily conversations, yet many of us might not fully grasp its meaning. At its core, emotional manipulation refers to the tactics someone employs to make another person feel a certain way in order to gain control or influence over them. It often involves exploiting feelings of guilt, fear, or love, skewing perceptions, and creating emotional responses that benefit the manipulator. It's unsettling to realize that these tactics can be subtle and even disguised under the guise of love or care, leading us to question our own emotions and reactions. Think about an everyday situation where you might experience emotional manipulation. Perhaps it's a conversation with a close friend who constantly reminds you of the sacrifices they've made for you. Their comments, while seemingly supportive, might instill a sense of obligation or guilt, nudging you to act contrary to your own wishes just to alleviate that discomfort. Another example could be in romantic relationships, where one partner might use affection as a bargaining chip, only showing love or attention when things are going their way. These instances resonate deeply because we have all encountered such scenarios, often blurring the lines between what is genuine care and what is control. Realizing the frequency of emotional manipulation in our lives can be an eye-opening experience. It appears not only in our closest relationships, but also in work environments, social dynamics, and even family interactions. By understanding how pervasive it is, we can start to recognize the signs, paving the way for healthier interactions. Keep in mind that awareness is the first step toward emotional empowerment. Whenever you feel compelled to act in a certain way due to someone else's influence, take a moment to reflect on your feelings. Acknowledge them. This simple practice can help you regain your emotional agency and pave the way for more authentic relationships. The psychology behind manipulation. Why people manipulate and why we fall for it. Manipulation can thrive on a range of psychological drivers that lead us to bend others to our will. One prominent factor is the innate desire for control and power. Many individuals feel a strong need to influence their environment or those around them, often stemming from feelings of insecurity or helplessness. When someone feels their own needs are threatened, they may resort to manipulation as a means to regain a sense of dominance, exploiting the vulnerabilities of others to achieve their goals. Addiction to approval often plays a crucial part in this dynamic. Some individuals manipulate others to bolster their own self-esteem. Whether it's through flattery, deceit, or playing on someone's emotions, these behaviors serve as a twisted method of gaining validation and reassurance. In certain cases, this behavior can be traced back to past experiences where acceptance was conditional or where self-worth was tied to external opinions. Cognitive biases serve as the fertile ground on which manipulation blossoms. One major bias is the confirmation bias, where we gravitate towards information that aligns with our beliefs while dismissing opposing viewpoints. This selective perception can cloud our judgment, making us susceptible to persuasive tactics that align with our existing beliefs. If someone manipulates a narrative to coincide with our thoughts, we are more likely to accept their version of reality without question. Equally influential is the authority bias, where we tend to trust and obey figures who are perceived as experts or leaders. This inherent respect can be exploited by manipulators. When someone in a position of authority presents information or demands compliance, we often disregard our critical thinking skills, leading to blind acceptance. Recognizing these biases offers a powerful tool. remaining skeptical and conducting our due diligence when faced with persuasive messages or claims ensures we don't fall victim to manipulation too easily. To stay alert against manipulation, practice mindfulness and strengthen your critical thinking skills. Regularly question your assumptions and seek diverse perspectives to guard against the seductive pull of confirmation bias. Cultivating a habit of pausing before responding, especially to emotionally charged situations, can provide the clarity needed to see through manipulative tactics. Purpose of the book: to unveil manipulation tactics and empower readers to recognize and resist them. Empowerment often begins with understanding. This book aims to shine a light on manipulation tactics that are all around us, whether it's in personal relationships, workplace dynamics, or media messages. By recognizing these techniques, which often operate beneath the surface of everyday interactions, readers will gain the tools to identify when they are being influenced against their will. My hope is to create a bridge of awareness that connects knowledge to action, allowing you to stand firm and assert your own choices. The mission here isn't just to inform, but also to inspire a sense of agency that may have been dulled by past experiences. Knowing how manipulation works equips you with the strength to counter it, making you the driver of your own life rather than a passenger who is vulnerable to external forces. Emotional intelligence is a vital skill on this journey. I encourage you to actively engage with your own emotions and responses as you read through this material. Being aware of how you feel in various situations and how others may be trying to steer those feelings is the first step in developing a strong emotional compass. It's like honing a muscle. The more you practice recognizing your emotions and understanding the motivations behind them, the stronger your emotional intelligence will become. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to start. Each page of this book is an invitation to explore your feelings, identify triggers, and develop strategies to respond intentionally rather than reacting impulsively. This is about taking control of your emotional landscape, which will directly support your ability to recognize manipulation when it arises. As you navigate this terrain, remember that empowerment is not just a destination, but a process. The more you engage with this material, the more you will learn to trust your instincts and cultivate resilience against the tactics designed to undermine you. An insightful practice is to reflect on your daily interactions, questioning the motivations behind people's words and actions. Ask yourself, is this meant to influence me in a certain way? Approaching life with this inquisitive mindset will not only make you more attuned to manipulation, but also enhance your personal growth, fostering a deeper sense of self and a stronger capacity to interact with the world on your terms. Chapter 1. What is emotional manipulation? Definition and key characteristics of emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation is often defined as a type of psychological control exercised by an individual in a relationship. It involves a person using tactics to create a feeling of obligation or guilt in another. This often leads to the manipulated person acting in a way that serves the manipulator's interests rather than their own. The subtlety of emotional manipulation makes it particularly insidious, as it can often be wrapped in layers of affection or care, disguising harmful intentions behind a facade of concern. One of the most distinguishing features of emotional manipulation is the presence of imbalance in the relationship. Healthy relationships are characterized by mutual respect and understanding, where both parties feel heard and valued. However, in manipulative dynamics, one person consistently prioritizes their needs over their partner's, leading to feelings of confusion and self-doubt in the other. Manipulators often employ guilt-tripping, gaslighting, or passive-aggressive behaviors that undermine the emotional well-being of their partners. They may also deflect responsibilities, making their victims feel as if they are the ones at fault for the manipulator's actions and emotions. In this context, love and respect are replaced by control and fear, creating a toxic environment that can be difficult to escape from. Recognizing the signs of emotional manipulation is essential for safeguarding oneself from unhealthy dynamics. Understanding that communication should be direct and honest, rather than filled with subtle digs or unspoken expectations, is crucial. Cultivating awareness around these characteristics empowers individuals to seek relationships where both partners openly share and support one another, free from manipulation. It's helpful to regularly check in with your emotions and feelings in relationships. If you often feel anxious or guilty after interactions, this may be a sign that you are being manipulated. Trust your instincts and don't hesitate to seek support if necessary. How manipulation differs from healthy influence. Understanding the difference between influence and manipulation is crucial in our interactions, whether personal or professional. Influence can be seen as a gentle push, encouraging someone to consider new ideas or perspectives without coercion. It respects individual autonomy and aligns with mutual benefit. Manipulation, on the other hand, tends to involve deceit or pressure to achieve one's own goals at the expense of others. It eclipses the other person's will and often leads to feelings of guilt or confusion. Recognizing this distinction can help us navigate social dynamics more effectively and approach our relationships with greater awareness. Consider a scenario where a friend encourages you to pursue a new career path, sharing their insights and experiences. This is healthy influence. They respect your decision-making process and genuinely want you to succeed. Now, imagine a different situation where someone uses guilt to compel you into a specific job, perhaps saying, "If you truly cared about our future, you'd take this position." This tactic relies on emotional pressure and erodes your autonomy, showing the darker side of manipulation. Through these examples, it becomes clearer how healthy influence fosters growth while manipulation leads to resentment. The key takeaway is to strive for influence that empowers rather than controls. When attempting to motivate others, focus on open communication and trust. Ask questions, listen actively, and support their choices instead of steering them based on fear or self-interest. This way, you not only nurture healthier relationships, but also cultivate an environment where everyone feels valued and understood. Chapter 2: The Emotional Manipulator's Playbook. Common traits of manipulators: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. Understanding the psychological profiles of common manipulators reveals a complex interplay of traits that shape their behavior. Narcissists, for example, exhibit an inflated sense of self-importance and a deep need for admiration. They believe they are superior to others and often display a lack of empathy, making it easier for them to exploit those around them. Machiavellians, on the other hand, are usually more strategic in their manipulation. They are pragmatic, often charming, and willing to deceive or exploit others to achieve their ends. Psychopaths present a chilling combination of charm and ruthlessness, often unaffected by fear or guilt. Their emotional detachment allows them to manipulate with precision, treating relationships as mere transactions. Each of these profiles highlights distinct characteristics and motivations, yet they share a common thread: a disregard for the emotions and needs of others. The behaviors of these manipulators often become evident in everyday life, sometimes in subtle ways that can easily go unnoticed. Narcissists might dominate conversations, making everything about themselves while disregarding others' feelings. They may also resort to gaslighting, flipping the truth to maintain their image. Machiavellians often employ cunning tactics, using flattery or deceit to navigate social settings and achieve their goals, perhaps by spreading rumors or forming alliances based on convenience rather than genuine connection. Psychopaths can be the most alarming. Their charming facades make them appear likable and trustworthy, yet their inability to bond emotionally allows them to exploit even close relationships without a second thought. You might notice these traits manifesting in situations where individuals manipulate facts, deceive their peers, or retreat into self-serving behavior without any guilt. Recognizing these traits in the people around us can be a powerful tool for safeguarding ourselves from manipulation. Developing an awareness of the signs of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy allows individuals to approach relationships with greater caution and insight. If something feels off in a relationship, trust your instincts and observe patterns of behavior. Consistent self-centeredness or a lack of remorse can be red flags. Setting boundaries and fostering communication grounded in honesty not only protects you from potential harm, but can also help identify healthier dynamics. Ultimately, understanding these manipulative traits equips you with the knowledge to navigate your social world more safely and effectively. The motivations driving manipulators. Understanding why manipulative individuals choose to engage in their behaviors requires delving into a complex web of personal motivations and external influences. At the core of manipulative actions often lies a deep-seated desire for control. Many people who manipulate others may feel a lack of power in their own lives, leading them to exert influence over others to compensate for that deficiency. This could stem from personal insecurities, past traumas, or an overwhelming need to feel important or validated. The act of manipulation becomes a way for them to regain a sense of agency, often manifested through deceit, charm, or guilt. For some, manipulation is learned behavior, forged in environments where emotional needs were met through such tactics. They may have been raised in households where love was conditional, forcing them to adapt and develop skills to navigate interpersonal relationships. As a result, these individuals may extend their tactics into adulthood, unwittingly perpetuating a cycle of manipulation when they feel threatened or insecure in their relationships. Understanding these backgrounds helps to unravel the layers of motivation beneath the surface of manipulative acts, revealing a landscape filled with fear, shame, and a desperate need for acceptance. Manipulators often chase specific emotional rewards that stem from their tactics, creating a cycle that reinforces their behaviors. One of the primary rewards is a rush of power and control. It feels exhilarating to bend someone else's will or to negate their feelings. Many manipulative individuals may feel a thrill each time their strategy pays off, resulting in a short-lived surge of confidence and a distorted sense of self-worth. This creates a dependency on such behaviors, as they begin to associate their sense of value directly with their ability to manipulate others. Moreover, manipulators seek affirmation through emotional connections that are often one-sided. They may desire affection and attention, but struggle to attain genuine intimacy due to their tactics. Instead, the emotional gratification they receive is superficial, a semblance of vulnerability from others, which they exploit rather than nurture. This often leads to a loneliness that may drive them to manipulate even further, perpetuating the cycle. By recognizing these emotional undercurrents in manipulative behaviors, we can better understand the tragic irony of their existence. By seeking affection through unhealthy means, they ultimately sabotage the very relationships they crave. Understanding manipulation not only helps us recognize these behaviors in others, but also lets us reflect on our own interactions. Cultivating emotional resilience and encouraging open communication can break these patterns and foster healthier relationships. Look for underlying needs in those around you and strive to meet them through authentic connection rather than manipulation. Chapter 3: The Psychology of the Manipulated. Why certain individuals are more susceptible. People often exhibit specific personality traits that make them more open to manipulation. For instance, an individual who scores high on traits like agreeableness tends to prioritize harmony over confrontation. Such a person might go out of their way to please others, making them an easy target for those who seek to exploit their kindness. Similarly, a lack of assertiveness can leave someone vulnerable, as they may struggle to stand up for themselves when faced with pressure or deceit. In my interactions with various individuals, I've noticed that those characterized by lower self-esteem often seek validation from others, which can blur their judgment and lead them to conform to others' wishes, even when those wishes are not in their best interest. It's fascinating how traits like neuroticism or anxiety can further cloud decision-making, causing individuals to second-guess themselves and ultimately fall prey to manipulative tactics. Life experiences can play a significant role in shaping these vulnerabilities. For example, someone who has gone through trauma or betrayal may develop trust issues, making them hyper-aware of potential manipulation. On the other hand, someone who has faced consistent emotional neglect might become desperate for connections, making them easy to influence due to a craving for acceptance. Additionally, cultural background can contribute significantly. In environments where authority is rarely questioned, individuals may grow up with an ingrained respect for hierarchy that can hinder their critical thinking skills. Each circumstance leaves a mark, and individuals who have faced tumultuous or unstable environments may find solace in deceptive alliances, even when those alliances are destructive. Reflecting on my own experiences, I've seen how past relationships influence present choices, often steering individuals towards repeated patterns of dependence. Recognizing these patterns in ourselves and others allows for a stronger defense against manipulation. It's essential to cultivate self-awareness, reflect on our choices, and understand the motivations behind our relationships. By doing so, we can better navigate social interactions and protect ourselves from being swayed by others. Learning to evaluate the intentions behind someone's words or actions can be a valuable skill. The next time you find yourself in a difficult decision-making moment, take a step back. Ask yourself if your choices are being influenced by your need to please or by past experiences that might not be relevant anymore. Taking that moment for clarity can be a protective barrier against manipulation. Emotional triggers manipulators exploit: guilt, fear, love, ambition. Manipulators often tap into a set of powerful emotional triggers that can influence and control those around them. Guilt is one of the most common tools they wield. By making someone feel responsible for a negative outcome, manipulators can bend others to their will. For instance, they might say something like, "If you really cared about me, you would help with this," compelling the person to act, even against their better judgment. Fear is another potent trigger. The threat of loss or harm can be a compelling motivator. Fear-based tactics can take various forms, from subtle insinuations to outright intimidation, such as suggesting that bad things will occur if their demands are not met. Love, ideally a source of comfort and connection, can also be exploited. When manipulators use affection as leverage, they create a cycle of dependency where the target feels they must meet demands to maintain the relationship. Lastly, ambition can be preyed upon. When someone is driven by their goals, manipulators can dangle opportunities, using the promise of success to extract compliance. Each of these emotional triggers creates an environment where manipulation can thrive. Real-life examples illuminate how these emotional triggers play out. Picture a workplace scenario. A manager might overload an employee with work, then express disappointment in their performance. By invoking guilt, the manager makes the employee feel inadequate. Similarly, in personal relationships, someone might claim that their partner's lack of support in a challenging time signifies a lack of love, thereby leveraging that relationship's emotional bond. The fear of losing that love may prompt the partner to do whatever it takes to prove their worth, often resulting in actions that compromise their own needs. Ambition comes into play when a company offers a promotion but sets untenable expectations, causing employees to work excessive hours out of fear of missing out on success. These scenarios highlight not just the effectiveness of these manipulative tactics, but also their emotional toll on those subjected to them. Recognizing these emotional triggers is key to protecting ourselves from manipulation. One practical tip is to pause and reflect whenever you feel a powerful emotional response, especially feelings of guilt or fear. Ask yourself if those feelings serve your best interests, or if they're being used to influence your decisions. By building awareness of these emotional tactics, you can maintain your agency and make choices that align with your own values rather than succumbing to others' agendas. Chapter 4: Gaslighting. Making the victim question their perception of reality. Gaslighting is a term that many have heard, but few fully understand. It describes a form of psychological manipulation where a person seeks to sow seeds of doubt in someone else's mind. As the victim, you might find yourself questioning your memories, feelings, and perceptions. The effects of gaslighting can be profound and long-lasting, leading to anxiety, depression, and a feeling of isolation. You may wonder if you are losing your grip on reality or if your reactions are overreactions. The insidious nature of gaslighting means that it often goes unnoticed until the damage is deep-rooted, leaving the victim feeling powerless and unsure. Manipulators have a variety of methods they utilize to instill doubt. They might deny events or conversations that you clearly remember, insisting that you are mistaken or imagining things. They often use projection, accusing you of the very behavior they exhibit, which can lead to intense confusion. A common tactic is to create an environment of inconsistency. One moment they may be warm and loving, and in the next, they might dismiss you or undermine your thoughts. By doing this repeatedly, they establish a skewed sense of reality. You might find yourself seeking their approval for your feelings and thoughts. This creates a dynamic where you feel increasingly reliant on them for validation, further entrenching your vulnerabilities. The impact of this manipulation can be devastating. It is crucial to recognize the signs early on. Keeping a journal of your experiences, feelings, and conversations can help you ground yourself in reality. It allows you to track patterns and discrepancies when you sense something is off. Surrounding yourself with supportive, trustworthy friends can offer a reality check and bolster your confidence in your perceptions. If you ever feel unsure of your reality, remember that trust in your own feelings is the first step toward reclaiming your power. Signs you're being gaslit and how to respond. Understanding that someone is gaslighting you can be a disorienting experience. One key sign is denial. They often reject or contradict your version of events, insisting you are mistaken. You might find yourself questioning your memory because they make you feel like you're overreacting or being too sensitive. Another sign is the subtle changing of facts. You'll notice they twist the truth, leaving you unsure of your grasp on reality. You may experience an emotional roller coaster, where you feel completely loved one moment and totally unworthy the next, often based on their unpredictable reactions. This inconsistency creates confusion, leading you to doubt yourself. Isolation is another critical factor. They may discourage you from seeking support from friends or family, making you feel alone in your experiences. You might start to feel guilty for things you haven't done wrong and find yourself apologizing frequently. In time, the relationship dynamic shifts, with them having more control over your decisions and feelings than you do. All these signs create an atmosphere where you may end up feeling like a stranger to yourself. In facing gaslighting, it's crucial to regain your sense of reality. Start by keeping a journal where you can document events and conversations as they occur. This helps solidify your experiences and feelings, serving as a powerful reminder of your reality during moments of doubt. It's also vital to trust your instincts. If something feels off, give yourself permission to feel that way, regardless of what others say. Establishing connections with supportive friends and relatives can reinforce your truth and provide emotional backing when you feel unsure. Setting boundaries is equally important. Clearly communicate what behaviors are unacceptable, and if they cross those lines, consider the impact on your well-being. Practicing self-care becomes an essential routine, whether it's indulging in hobbies, spending time in nature, or simply meditating. These moments help you reconnect with your sense of self and restore your inner peace. While it may take time and effort to reclaim your reality, one practical tip is to remind yourself that your feelings are valid. Surround yourself with people who uplift you and genuinely understand your experiences. Speaking to a therapist or counselor can further validate your feelings and provide a safe space to explore your thoughts. Understanding gaslighting can empower you to take back your narrative, reinforcing that you deserve a healthy relationship based on respect and trust. When you recognize the signs and take proactive steps to address them, you will gradually rediscover your strength and clarity in a complicated emotional landscape. Chapter 5: Guilt Tripping. Exploiting feelings of guilt to control others. Guilt can be a powerful weapon in the arsenal of emotional manipulation. It creeps into our thoughts, often uninvited, wrapping itself around our conscience like a vine that suffocates the breath of rational thinking. When someone makes us feel guilty, they wield control over our actions and decisions. Guilt can trigger a profound sense of obligation, making us feel responsible for the happiness or well-being of others. In many situations, this emotional response can cause us to compromise our own needs and desires. A parent may leverage this feeling to gain compliance from a child. A partner might use it to avoid conflict, or a friend may invoke guilt to maintain their own sense of power. It becomes a cycle. The more we give into that guilt, the more it can be exploited by those who recognize its influence over us. Understanding why many people feel guilty reveals the mechanics behind this emotional manipulation. A person's upbringing, cultural background, and personal experiences can lay the groundwork for a heightened sense of guilt. Many individuals are taught that they should always prioritize the feelings and needs of others, often above their own. This caring attitude, while admirable, can also make them vulnerable. The belief that their worth is tied to their ability to make others happy can lead to an internalized sense of guilt whenever they do something perceived as selfish or disappointing. This mindset creates an environment ripe for exploitation, since those who understand the nuances of guilt can easily persuade, pressure, or coerce someone into acting against their own interests. Recognizing these dynamics can help individuals defend against guilt-based manipulation. It's essential to maintain awareness of one's own feelings and differentiate between genuine remorse and guilt that is being weaponized. Establishing healthy boundaries can serve as a safeguard, allowing a person to honor their own needs without succumbing to the pressures of obligation induced by guilt. A practical tip is to practice self-reflection regularly. Ask yourself if your feelings of guilt are rooted in your values or if they are being shaped by someone else's agenda. By understanding your motivations and feelings, you empower yourself to break free from the chains of guilt others may attempt to impose. How to recognize and neutralize guilt tripping. Recognizing when you are being guilt-tripped can be tricky, especially because it often feels subtle and indirect. You might notice a sudden change in someone's tone when they talk to you, or they might use phrases like "I thought you cared about me," or "I can't believe you would do this to me." These statements can make you feel responsible for their emotions, creating an uncomfortable pressure to comply with their demands. Another sign could be feelings of anxiety or dread that come up when interacting with certain individuals. If you find yourself constantly worrying about upsetting someone or feel a heavy weight on your shoulders after a conversation, it is likely you're experiencing guilt tripping. Moreover, if someone uses past mistakes against you as leverage in a conversation, that's another red flag. You might realize that the person controls the dynamic by bringing up your past shortcomings or sacrifices they've made for you, suggesting that your current actions are somehow ungrateful or should be adjusted to meet their expectations. To neutralize the impact of guilt manipulation, first, it's vital to affirm your feelings and trust your instincts. If you feel troubled or coerced, take a step back. Practicing assertiveness can be a powerful tool. When someone attempts to guilt trip you, respond with calm but firm statements. For instance, saying, "I understand that you're upset, but I need to prioritize my own needs right now," can reclaim your narrative. Setting boundaries is essential. Articulate what is acceptable to you and what isn't. If a person's behavior consistently undermines your peace, reevaluating that relationship may be necessary. Additionally, focusing on self-care can bolster your mental strength. Engage in activities that reaffirm your worth and happiness outside of the person attempting to manipulate you. Journaling about your feelings can be incredibly therapeutic, allowing you to process and detach from the guilt that others may try to impose. It's often a challenge to break free from the cycles of guilt and manipulation, especially when they are woven into relationships we hold dear. Practicing mindfulness can play a significant role in this journey. When you find yourself caught in a guilt trip scenario, take a moment to breathe deeply and assess the situation objectively. Ask yourself whether the guilt you feel is warranted or if it stems from someone else's need to control. This self-reflection can empower you to respond rather than react, preserving your autonomy and emotional well-being. Remember, it's completely okay to prioritize yourself and your feelings. Keep this at the forefront. Your self-worth is not contingent on meeting the expectations of others. It's defined by how you treat yourself. Chapter 6. Love bombing. Overwhelming someone with affection to create dependency. Love bombing is a term that describes the act of showering someone with excessive affection, adoration, and attention. It often feels thrilling and intoxicating, like a whirlwind romance that sweeps you off your feet. Initially, this deluge of emotions can feel genuine and deeply satisfying. However, beneath this surface lies a psychological manipulation that can have serious implications. People who engage in love bombing often do so to establish control over another person. The compulsive need to express love can mask their deeper insecurities and intentions, making the receiver feel cherished but also unsafe. When someone experiences a sudden influx of affection, it can distort their perception of love, resulting in confusion and emotional turmoil. This is where the danger lies. While it feels alluring, love bombing can quickly morph into obsession, leaving individuals trapped in a cycle of emotional highs and lows. This tactic of affection is not just about expressing feelings. It's a strategic maneuver that creates unhealthy dependence on the manipulator. Once someone has been overwhelmed with love, they often find it difficult to extricate themselves from the relationship. The constant validation and affection can condition a person to seek approval from their partner to maintain their sense of worth, creating a dependency that is hard to break. The love bomber knows how to tap into vulnerabilities, making their target feel as though the warmth and affection are necessary for their emotional survival. This dependency can intensify, leading individuals to forsake their own needs and desires in pursuit of the love that many times feels just out of reach. It's a vicious cycle that can strip away one's autonomy, leading to feelings of worthlessness and despair when validation is not forthcoming. Recognizing this behavior is crucial. It's important to remember that healthy relationships encourage independence while fostering connection. If you find yourself constantly seeking reassurance or feeling anxious about your partner's affection, take a step back to evaluate the dynamics at play. Surround yourself with supportive friendships and engage in self-reflection to build your sense of self-worth outside of the relationship. Establishing boundaries and clear communication can help protect against the allure of love bombing. Always prioritize your mental and emotional well-being, and remember that true love should empower, not ensnare. The red flags of love bombing. Love bombing is often under the radar until you find yourself caught up in its intense waves. At first, a flood of affection makes you feel cherished, chosen, and special. If someone is showering you with constant attention, extravagant gifts, and overwhelming declarations of love right from the start, it's worth taking a step back. Genuine love grows over time, unlike the fast-paced, almost manufactured romance that characterizes love bombing. You might notice them wanting to spend every moment with you, portraying an image of perfection that feels too good to be true. This might seem romantic, yet it can swiftly blur the lines of your personal boundaries. Another critical sign to watch for is how quickly they seek to establish a deep emotional connection. Have they professed their love within the first few weeks, or tried to push for commitment before you're ready? Pay attention to any efforts to isolate you from friends and family, subtly steering conversations away from voices that might offer different perspectives. This often creates a cycle where your self-esteem may be tied to their affection. When you find yourself feeling anxious or overly dependent on their approval, that's a clear indication that love bombing could be at play. Setting boundaries in new relationships is vital for keeping yourself grounded. It's tempting to get swept away in the whirlwind of intense feelings and romantic gestures, but maintaining your individuality is key. Start by communicating your needs openly and honestly from the get-go. If you need time to process feelings, or if you're unclear about topics that are moving too fast for you, express that. A healthy partner will respect your pace and give you space to breathe. Establish small boundaries that can grow along with your relationship. Maybe it's limiting the number of times you text each other each day or reserving certain nights for personal time. Often, people in love-bombing scenarios might push back against boundaries, so be firm. If someone truly values you, they will understand the importance of individual space. It's crucial to continually assess if these boundaries are respected. The early stages of a relationship set the foundation for what's to come, and ensuring both people's comfort levels are aligned is a strong start. One practical tip is to reflect regularly on your feelings and experiences in the relationship. Journaling can be a great way to capture your evolving feelings and recognize patterns that might indicate love bombing is taking place. Awareness is your best ally in navigating the waves of romance, keeping you afloat and empowered to steer your own course. Chapter 7. The Silent Treatment. Using silence to punish and manipulate. Silence is a powerful tool, often underestimated in its ability to inflict emotional pain. When words are withheld, the absence of communication can become a subtle form of emotional abuse. I have seen how silence acts like a weapon, striking at the core of an individual's self-worth and emotional well-being. It leaves the recipient in a state of confusion, often questioning themselves and their actions. The manipulator knows this. They understand that silence can create an atmosphere of tension, planting seeds of doubt. It is as though the lack of conversation is laced with unspoken accusations, demanding the other person to interpret uncommunicated feelings and thoughts. When one partner decides to resort to silence, the emotional landscape shifts dramatically. The impacted individual feels a heaviness, a pressure that hangs in the air, begging for the release that words can provide. This weaponization of silence creates an imbalance, making it clear who has the power in the relationship. The impact of using silence as a tactic is far-reaching. It doesn't just strain communication, it erodes trust and intimacy over time. Relationships thrive on open dialogue and the exchange of thoughts and feelings, but when silence replaces conversation, a chasm begins to form. I've experienced how this tactic can lead to misunderstandings and misperceptions, as the unspoken words breed assumptions rather than clarity. Partners may feel like they are walking on eggshells, afraid to provoke another silence. The emotional distance widens, leaving both parties isolated in their personal thoughts and frustrations. This barrier hinders genuine communication, fostering resentment and emotional withdrawal, creating a vicious cycle that can be challenging to break. The longer this silence lingers, the more entrenched these feelings become, turning a once vibrant interaction into a series of strained encounters. It's not just about the words that are spoken or not spoken, but the feelings behind them, creating a significant emotional deficit that can deeply harm the relationship. Understanding the nuances of how silence functions in relationships can help in addressing its damaging effects. Making a conscious effort to fill the silence with honesty and vulnerability can transform the dynamics at play. Encourage open communication, where both partners feel safe to express their feelings without fear of retaliatory silence. Setting aside time to check in on each other, can help bridge this gap. I've learned that vulnerability begets vulnerability, often dissolving the walls built by silence. By recognizing the signs early and committing to addressing the emotional distance created by silence, couples can reclaim their connection, leading not only to healthier communication, but also to an enriching, enduring relationship. Effective strategies for breaking the cycle. Experiencing the silent treatment can be one of the most frustrating situations to find yourself in, especially when the reasons behind it remain hidden. To confront and address the silent treatment directly, approach the person involved with empathy and openness. Acknowledge their feelings without diving into accusations or defensiveness. It may help to start with a gentle question like, "I've noticed you seem upset, and I want to understand what you're feeling." This sets a tone of caring and invites them to share their thoughts rather than retreating further into silence. If they share, listen actively and validate their feelings. If they don't, let them know you're ready to talk when they feel comfortable. Your willingness to engage without pressure can sometimes coax the other person out of their quiet shell. Once you've confronted the silent treatment, reestablishing open communication becomes crucial for moving forward and preventing similar cycles in the future. Make it clear that maintaining a dialogue is essential to both of you. Encourage regular check-ins or open discussions about how you both are feeling to foster an environment where both parties can express themselves freely. Consider establishing a set time during the week to talk about anything bothering either of you. This creates a safe space for expression and reduces the chances of misunderstandings escalating into silence. Remember to be patient and supportive, as rebuilding trust and open lines of communication takes time, but every effort you make paves the way for healthier interactions. A practical tip for everyone is to practice your own pause during conflicts. This can involve taking a few deep breaths and allowing yourself to step back momentarily. This not only gives you a chance to gather your thoughts, but also shows the other person that you are willing to take a break to avoid saying something hurtful. By doing this, you're modeling the behavior you wish to see, encouraging a more respectful and communicative dynamic in your relationships. Chapter 8: Emotional Blackmail. Threatening consequences to force compliance. Emotional blackmail is a powerful and often insidious form of manipulation that can seep into our relationships and decision-making processes without us even realizing it. It occurs when someone uses fear, obligation, or guilt to influence another person's behavior. Imagine a friend who hints that they will be deeply hurt or angry if you don't attend their gathering, leveraging your feelings to get what they want. This tactic creates an atmosphere where compliance feels less like a choice and more like a necessity. The key tactics involved in emotional blackmail include threats, such as the implication of withdrawing love or friendship, and the strategic use of remorse to manipulate feelings of loyalty and guilt. The blackmailer creates an emotional climate that keeps the target from feeling free to express their true feelings or to make decisions that favor their own well-being. The repercussions of emotional blackmail are far-reaching and can deeply impact a person's emotional health. When we find ourselves constantly responding to someone else's manipulation, our sense of autonomy begins to erode. We may feel trapped, anxious, or even depressed, as if our choices are being dictated by someone else's expectations. This can lead to decision-making that is based more on avoiding conflict or displeasure than on our own desires or benefits. Over time, this can foster resentment, a lack of trust, and a diminished sense of self-worth. It's essential to recognize that emotional blackmail isn't just a minor annoyance. It can significantly affect how we relate to others and contribute to a toxic environment. Being aware of these dynamics allows us to reclaim our power and make choices that align more closely with our values and needs. When faced with emotional blackmail, one helpful approach is to communicate clearly and set boundaries. This shows that you value your well-being and are not afraid to stand firm against manipulative tactics. How to stand your ground against emotional blackmail. Recognizing emotional blackmail in relationships is crucial for maintaining your boundaries and self-respect. It often masquerades as caring or concern, but underneath, it thrives on manipulation and guilt. I found that the first step is becoming aware of what emotional blackmail looks like. It can come in various forms, such as threats of withdrawal of love, silent treatment, or exaggerated expressions of hurt. I learned to pay attention to when I felt consistently anxious after conversations. If I had to walk on eggshells, dreading how the other person might react, that's a red flag. Observing these patterns helped me understand that the intention wasn't genuine concern, but rather a way to control or coerce me into compliance. Once I identified the signs, I realized I needed strategies to resist the demands made under emotional duress. One empowering technique is asserting myself respectfully but firmly. I practice saying no without the need to over-explain myself. This shift was liberating. It allowed me to express my feelings and decisions without succumbing to guilt. I also began to create emotional distance. Instead of feeling dragged into someone else's emotional turmoil, I focused on recognizing my own feelings and validating them. This meant acknowledging that it was okay to prioritize my well-being over another's attempts to manipulate my emotions. An important takeaway is to establish a strong support network. Sharing my experiences with friends who understand what I was going through reinforced my sense of self-worth and helped me gain perspective on the situation. I found that reminding myself of my values and the kind of relationship I wanted to nurture was crucial. Therefore, I learned it's not just about resisting. It's also about proactive engagement in healthy relationships. A practical tip is to take a moment to breathe and gather your thoughts before responding to emotionally charged demands. This space allows clarity and can often lead to a more grounded reaction rather than an impulsive one. Chapter 9. Playing the victim. Feigning helplessness to gain sympathy and control. There are many reasons why someone might choose to feign victimhood. In some cases, it may stem from a deep-seated need for attention or validation. Individuals might feel overwhelmed by their circumstances, leading them to adopt a persona that draws sympathy from others. This behavior often becomes a means of control, allowing them to manipulate the reactions and emotions of those around them. They may not want to accept personal responsibility for their situation, so instead, they portray themselves as helpless. This faux victimization can come from a desire to escape confrontation or to elicit care and support, even if it means distorting the truth. The power of sympathy can be intoxicating, as it grants them a kind of influence over friends, family, and colleagues. They might use this tactic as a coping mechanism, a way to shield themselves from the harsh realities of life or to gain what they believe is a more favorable situation. Even more concerning is how feigning helplessness creates a ripple effect that can deeply impact genuine victims. When someone habitually plays the victim, it can lead others to become skeptical of those who are truly suffering. Those who have experienced real pain, trauma, or hardship may find their cries for help overshadowed or dismissed. This diminishes the validity of their experiences and contributes to a toxic atmosphere where authentic emotions and stories are questioned. The trust in human connections erodes when the act of pretending to be a victim becomes common. Genuine victims may feel isolated or invalidated, leading to further emotional distress. They may hesitate to seek help, fearing that their struggles will be viewed through a lens of skepticism, all because of the actions of those who manipulate emotions to serve their needs. This dynamic not only harms those truly in need, but can also distort social perceptions of victimhood, making it difficult for society to recognize and respond appropriately to real issues. It's crucial to cultivate a healthy way of expressing difficulties and to seek authentic connections without resorting to manipulation or deceit. Building trust in relationships means being honest about our struggles while being mindful of how we express them. By actively working to establish genuine empathy and understanding, we can create a supportive environment where everyone feels safe to share their truths. This approach not only honors the experiences of real victims, but also encourages a sense of community and connection that is rooted in authenticity. If you ever feel tempted to exaggerate your struggles to gain sympathy, consider finding healthier channels for expressing your feelings, such as talking to a trusted friend or mental health professional who can provide support without the need for manipulation. Identifying when victimhood is a tactic, not a reality. It's often difficult to discern when someone is genuinely experiencing hardship versus when they are wielding their victim status as a form of manipulation. One key indicator is the consistency in their narrative. Are they telling the same story repeatedly, or do the details change depending on who is in the audience? Real victims tend to share their experiences with honesty and vulnerability, while those who use victimhood as a tactic might exaggerate or alter their tales to elicit sympathy or support. Another red flag is the focus of their discourse. If their conversations are primarily centered on their suffering without an acknowledgement of any personal agency or responsibility, It can signal a manipulative use of victimhood. When individuals seem to relish in their victim status, garnering attention and sympathy without seeking a way to heal or move forward, we must question their motivations. To truly understand the difference between authentic and performative victimization, it's essential to develop a sense of discernment. Authentic victims often seek connection and support to heal, whereas those performing victimhood may focus on garnering pity, without any real intention of growth or resolution. Observing their responses to constructive feedback can also provide insight. If someone reacts defensively to helpful suggestions, this can indicate that they are more invested in their identity as a victim than in actual progress. Being aware of these distinctions doesn't just involve critical observation. It calls for empathy and compassion as well. Understanding that people may have complex reasons for their behavior helps us navigate these interactions with grace. As you engage with others, keep in mind that compassion should be your guiding principle, but also recognize the importance of setting boundaries. It's possible to empathize with someone's pain while also being aware of their potential manipulation. Consider asking questions that encourage reflection, pushing them gently toward personal responsibility. An effective question could be, "What have you learned from this experience?" Reflecting on such inquiries can not only help you gauge their sincerity, but also empower them to step away from a victim mentality, making way for healing and growth. Chapter 10: Triangulation. Creating conflict by pitting people against each other. Triangulation is a term that describes a method of conflict that often feels like a game, but the consequences are very real. When I think about triangulation, I picture a triangle where one person acts as a pivot between two others, manipulating their interactions with one another. This form of relational disruption can be damaging, as it creates an environment filled with suspicion and hostility. In a workplace, for example, an employee may subtly fuel disagreements between two colleagues to gain favor or control. This behavior not only undermines trust, but also creates a ripple effect where the original parties become defensive or hostile towards each other, often without even realizing they are being played. The disruptions created by triangulation can fracture relationships and erode the sense of community that is vital for collaboration. The emotional consequences of triangulation can be severe, affecting everyone involved. When I observe individuals caught in the crossfire of a triangulated scenario, I notice a pattern of anxiety, frustration, and even betrayal. The person in the middle often feels squeezed, torn between loyalties and responsibilities, while the two others, misled by the triangulator, may develop feelings of resentment not just towards each other, but also towards the person who instigated the situation. It's a heavy burden that weighs down relationships, making it hard to communicate openly. I remember witnessing a close-knit group of friends deteriorate under the pressure of such dynamics. They went from laughter and camaraderie to whispers and side eyes, all because one person thrived on chaos. Emotions were raw, and trust was broken, leaving scars that lingered long after the original conflict had passed. The key takeaway here is the importance of open communication and honesty in every relationship. If you find yourself feeling caught in the middle, it's crucial to address the situation directly with all parties involved rather than allowing the conflict to fester. Encourage transparency rather than choosing sides, and be mindful of how you may be influenced by others. Creating a space where everyone feels heard can dismantle the power of triangulation before it takes root. Remember, it's better to face discomfort than to allow misunderstandings to thrive in silence. Steps to dismantle triangulation and restore trust. Understanding triangulation is the first crucial step to dismantling it. Triangulation often sneaks into our relationships, creating a complex web of communication that involves multiple parties. To identify this dynamic, pay attention to how conversations unfold. If you find yourself frequently speaking about someone else instead of directly addressing them, you may be in a triangulation trap. This manipulation can breed misunderstanding and suspicion. Confronting it requires both courage and openness. Start by acknowledging the presence of this behavior in yourself and others. Bring it up directly to the parties involved, facilitated by a healthy dose of empathy. Use I statements to express how triangulation makes you feel. For instance, saying, "I feel left out and confused when information is shared about me without my knowledge" can create a safe space for discussion, opening the door to healing. Encourage the individuals involved to share their perspectives openly, fostering a direct dialogue that diminishes the power of triangulation. Once the manipulation has been confronted, the important task of rebuilding trust begins. Trust is the bedrock of any relationship, and it requires consistent nurturing. Start with honest conversations. Allow space for each party to express feelings and concerns without fear of judgment. Listening actively can work wonders here. It's not just about hearing words, but understanding emotions behind them. Apologizing can also be a powerful tool. If you recognize where you may have contributed to the triangulation, acknowledging your part can be healing for everyone involved. After addressing past grievances, focus on fostering transparency. Encourage direct communication and make it a habit to regularly check in with each other about feelings and issues, steering clear of the shadow of triangulation. This practice can help reinforce trust over time. Moreover, establish boundaries where necessary. Sometimes, setting clear limitations on how personal information is shared can prevent the cycle from starting again, giving everyone involved a sense of security. Throughout this process, be patient with yourself and others. Rebuilding trust after manipulation is not an overnight fix. It's a journey that involves continuous effort. As you navigate this path, remember the power of vulnerability. Sharing your own fears and insecurities can invite others to do the same, cultivating a deeper connection. Lastly, make a commitment to creating a triangulation-free environment where openness and honesty are prioritized. By fostering these values, not only can you dismantle the damaging effects of triangulation, but you also pave the way for stronger, more trusting relationships. Take small steps each day, and you will find that trust can be rebuilt, one honest conversation at a time. Chapter 11. Deceptive Flattery. Using exaggerated praise to lower defenses. Exaggerated praise can be a powerful, albeit deceptive, tool that people use to lower another person's defenses. This form of flattery often comes in the guise of commendations that feel overly enthusiastic, almost comical in their intensity. When someone lays it on thick with their compliments, it can prompt us to drop our guards. We might feel flattered, even special, in those moments. However, the underlying motives tend to reveal a darker intent. Often, this kind of flattery is not about genuinely appreciating someone's qualities, but rather about gaining advantage or influence over them. The person wielding such praise might be aiming to distract, persuade, or manipulate the recipient into a desired response. This raises the question, why do we let our defenses down so easily against these empty words? The answer often lies in our desire for acceptance and recognition. We all want to feel valued, and intense compliments can tug at that deep-seated need. As we navigate through interactions filled with flattery, it's crucial to recognize when compliments lose their authenticity and become mere tools of manipulation. Insincere praise can provoke confusion and discomfort. While our minds may initially respond positively to compliments, a flicker of skepticism often follows, causing us to question the giver's motives. If someone praises our achievements in an exaggerated manner, it may stir feelings of doubt rather than joy. We might wonder if they truly appreciate us for who we are, or if they merely want something in return. This cognitive dissonance can lead to a breakdown in trust. The psychological impact is significant. Feelings of unease can lead to defensive behaviors. In a world where genuine connection is held in high regard, recognizing the difference between sincere praise and excessive flattery is more important than ever. By developing this awareness, we can protect ourselves against emotional manipulation while fostering more authentic interactions. To navigate situations filled with flattery, tune into your intuition. Pay careful attention to not just the words being said, but also the body language and tone of the person delivering the praise. When you notice that compliments feel exaggerated or disconnected from reality, take a step back. Rather than jumping in to agree or accept the praise, consider asking clarifying questions. This little tactic can help you gauge the intentions behind the flattery, empowering you to maintain your boundaries and protect your sense of self. Recognizing the difference between genuine and manipulative compliments. Understanding the nuances of compliments can transform the way we navigate our relationships, both personal and professional. Genuine compliments often stem from a place of honesty and appreciation, reflecting true admiration for someone's talents, efforts, or qualities. For instance, when someone praises your presentation skills because they were truly impressed by the way you engaged the audience, it feels authentic. You can often tell because the compliment is specific. It acknowledges particular details and conveys emotion. On the other hand, manipulative compliments might sound sweet, but are often vague or generalized, lacking depth. If someone tells you you're the best without context or specifics, it might raise a flag. They may be attempting to charm their way into a favor, or worse, insidiously shift the dynamics in their favor. Paying attention to the intention behind the words can often reveal the truth of the sentiment expressed. When faced with flattery, it's essential to respond in a way that matches your feelings about the comment. If you suspect that the compliment is insincere, you can politely redirect the conversation, acknowledging their words without fully embracing them. A simple "thank you, that means a lot to me," allows you to maintain your dignity while also remaining assertive. Conversely, when someone's praise resonates with you, don't shy away from expressing your appreciation. You could say, "I really appreciate your kind words. That was a tough project, and I'm glad you noticed the effort." This not only affirms the other person's intent, but it also reinforces your self-confidence. The key is to trust your instincts while maintaining respect for the other person's emotional expression. An easy tip is to consider the context and the relationship you have with the person giving the compliment. This can guide how you choose to respond. Chapter 12. Gaslighting through isolation. Cutting off the victim's support system to gain control. Isolating victims from their support systems is a tactic often employed by abusers to gain control over them. When someone is cut off from friends and family, they become more dependent on their abuser for emotional and practical support. This disconnection can happen slowly and subtly. An abuser might start by suggesting that friends and family do not really understand the victim, subtly planting doubt about those relationships. Over time, the victim may find themselves withdrawing from social gatherings or feeling guilty about spending time with loved ones. The abuser often encourages this isolation by planting seeds of insecurity and fear, making the victim believe that they cannot trust anyone else but the abuser. Consequently, the victim becomes trapped in a cycle where their entire emotional landscape is dominated by the abuser, and they become increasingly unable to reach out for help or regain their lost connections. The long-term effects of this isolation on mental health can be devastating. Victims may experience feelings of loneliness, worthlessness, or hopelessness. The absence of a support network can lead to anxiety, depression, and even more severe mental health issues. The isolation strips away the victim's sense of identity and independence, as they become more entrenched in the toxic dynamics of the relationship. They may struggle to reintegrate into social circles even after leaving the abuser, feeling awkward or unsure about how to relate to others. Furthermore, the emotional and mental scars left by sustained isolation can create a long-lasting impact on self-esteem and trust, leaving victims hesitant to seek new relationships or rely on others for fear of being hurt again. Understanding these tactics and their consequences is crucial for both those experiencing abuse and those seeking to support someone in that situation. It is important to remember that rebuilding a support system takes time and effort. Encouraging victims to reconnect with trusted friends and family and to seek professional help can be essential steps toward healing. If you or someone you know is facing isolation, taking small, consistent steps to reach out and reclaim those connections can make a significant difference in restoring a sense of agency and well-being. How to rebuild connections and resist isolation tactics. Reconnecting with supportive individuals starts with a commitment to reach out. It often feels daunting, but the first step is to identify those in your life who truly uplift you. Think of friends, family members, or even colleagues who have been there during tough times. Instead of waiting for them to make the move, take it upon yourself to initiate contact. A simple message or a phone call can spark a conversation that leads to deeper reconnections. Don't shy away from sharing your feelings. People appreciate vulnerability. Open up about your experiences and express your desire to rekindle the relationship. You may be surprised at how willing others are to jump back into your life, especially if they sense your genuine intent. Another crucial aspect is to invite them into activities you enjoy or create new shared experiences. Whether it's a coffee date, a hike, or a virtual game night, engaging in enjoyable activities can reignite old bonds. Given the pace of modern life, it's easy to drift apart, but common interests tend to pull people back together. By making plans and actively participating in each other's lives, you reinforce connections that might have weakened. When it comes to asserting your independence and resilience, it's important to embrace your unique identity. Stand firm in your beliefs and values, even when faced with opposition. Developing self-awareness empowers you to understand what you stand for and helps you navigate relationships with confidence. It's also essential to cultivate self-care practices that nurture your emotional and physical well-being. Establishing routines that support your mental health, like meditation or journaling, builds inner strength. This resilience acts as a shield against isolation tactics that may come from outside influences. Challenge negative thoughts and replace them with affirmations of your worth and capabilities. Taking small yet courageous steps can build your independence. Learning new skills or hobbies not only enriches your life, but also expands your social circles, introducing you to new supportive relationships. Volunteer work can also connect you with individuals who share your values and concerns, reinforcing a sense of community. Surrounding yourself with positivity and challenge can prepare you to face isolation head-on. Remember, reconnecting is not just about others. It's about reclaiming your space and thriving in it. It can be helpful to keep in mind that meaningful connections often take time to rebuild. Each step you take is progress, and each connection restored adds to your resilience. When you encounter moments of solitude, remind yourself of your growth and the community you are actively creating around you. Chapter 13: The Illusion of Scarcity. Creating urgency to manipulate decisions. Selling is often less about the product itself and more about the emotions we invoke. Scarcity and urgency are two powerful emotional triggers that can significantly influence how we make decisions. When we perceive something as scarce, we feel an inherent pressure to act quickly. This pressure can stem from fear of missing out or the instinctive belief that if something is rare, it must be valuable. Imagine standing in front of a limited edition watch, knowing that only 10 are available. The thought of someone else snatching it up before we can act creates a rush, not just for the item, but for the sense of belonging to an exclusive group. Urgency amplifies this feeling, suggesting that if we don't act now, the opportunity will vanish forever. Together, scarcity and urgency create a perfect storm, compelling us to make decisions we might otherwise hesitate over. Understanding how urgency and scarcity work can empower you to recognize when these tactics are being used, both on you and by you. The next time you're faced with a time-limited offer, pause and assess whether this decision aligns with your values and needs, or if it's just the wave of urgency making the choice for you. This awareness can help you navigate your choices more wisely, ensuring that your decisions are truly your own. Recognizing and countering false scarcity. Recognizing when scarcity is being used manipulatively requires a keen eye and an open mind. We often encounter phrases like limited time offer or only a few left in stock, and while these can be genuine, it's crucial to consider the context. Companies sometimes deploy these tactics to rush us into quick decisions, making us feel that if we don't act immediately, we will miss out. One useful strategy is to pause and assess the situation. Ask yourself, is this urgency real or a marketing strategy? Look for signs such as lack of clear information about how many items are available or vague time frames that make it hard to understand the actual scarcity. It's helpful to do a little research and compare prices and availability elsewhere rather than rushing into a decision based on fear of missing out. Empowering yourself to make clear decisions is about cultivating confidence and clarity in your thought process. When faced with an enticing offer cloaked in urgency, take a moment to breathe. Consider your needs and priorities without the pressure of external narratives. Write down your thoughts or talk them through with someone you trust. This allows you to see the situation more objectively rather than through a lens of anxiety. You can also create your personal checklist for evaluating such offers. Ask yourself what the purchase means to you and whether it aligns with your values and goals. By doing this, you're not only protecting yourself from manipulation, but also gaining the confidence to make choices that genuinely serve you. Being aware of false scarcity enables us to navigate the world more effectively. A practical tip to remember is to always give yourself permission to step back from a decision that feels rushed. If it's a real opportunity, it will still be there tomorrow. By taking time to evaluate how scarcity influences your choices, you'll develop a clearer perspective, enabling you to resist pressure and uncover what's truly important to you. Remember, scarcity should never dictate your happiness or choices. Chapter 14: Covert Criticism. Undermining self-esteem through backhanded compliments. Covert criticism often masquerades as innocent remarks, making it tricky to identify. When someone says, "You're surprisingly good at this," or "I wouldn't have expected you to pull that off," the words may seem harmless at first glance. However, these backhanded compliments undermine the recipient's confidence, burying doubt beneath a layer of seemingly positive feedback. The insidious nature of these comments lies in their duality. They possess a sugary coating that masks the bitterness within. It's not just a play on words, but a calculated way to express disdain, cast doubt on ability, and to subtly elevate the speaker while diminishing the listener's self-worth. It plants seeds of insecurity, leaving the recipient questioning their own competence and value. The emotional toll these tactics can have on self-esteem is profound. Each backhanded compliment can chip away at an individual's confidence, making them feel inadequate or lesser than others. The recipient may find themselves replaying the comment in their minds, dissecting it, and questioning their worth in that moment. Over time, these seemingly trivial remarks accumulate, leaving a heavy weight on the shoulders of the person targeted. The struggle becomes internalized, manifesting in self-doubt and anxiety. The persistent questioning of one's abilities or value can lead to a distorted self-image, making it difficult to enjoy achievements or feel secure in one's skills. Even a single backhanded remark can echo in the mind, fostering a narrative that diminishes self-esteem and feeds into a cycle of negative self-talk. Recognizing these backhanded compliments is vital for protecting yourself from their damaging effects. When someone delivers comments that feel off, take a moment to dissect their intent. Shift your focus from the confusing outer layer to your intrinsic value. Remember that your self-esteem shouldn't hinge on the perceptions of others. Surround yourself with supportive individuals who uplift you without the veiled barbs. Affirm yourself regularly by celebrating achievements, no matter how small, and reminding yourself of your worth. By building a robust sense of self, you can neutralize the impact of those hurtful comments and create a buffer against negativity. Protecting your confidence against subtle insults. Subtle insults can feel like little daggers, piercing our confidence when we least expect it. These covert criticisms can come from anywhere: friends, colleagues, or even strangers. To defend against these sneaky jabs, it's essential to develop a toolbox of responses. First, always remind yourself that the insult often speaks more about the other person than it does about you. This mental shift can disarm the sting of their words. You might practice a simple phrase in response, something like, "Thank you for sharing your perspective." This gives you a moment to breathe and decide how to move forward without engaging defensively. When you encounter a subtle dig, try using humor to diffuse the tension. Responding with laughter can change the atmosphere and show that their words don't hold power over you. It's all about taking control of the narrative and maintaining your ground. Building self-worth amidst criticism is an ongoing journey, one we must commit to daily. It's crucial to recognize that your value doesn't hinge on the opinions of others. Embracing self-compassion is vital. Treat yourself with the same kindness you'd extend to a friend facing similar negativity. Consider keeping a journal where you jot down your achievements, no matter how small. This reflection not only reinforces your core strengths, but also serves as a reminder during tough times that you are capable and worthy. Another powerful strategy is to cultivate a positive support network. Surround yourself with those who uplift you and share your aspirations. Their encouragement can act as a buffer against the negativity that sometimes creeps in. Furthermore, work on defining your boundaries. If certain individuals are prone to making subtle criticisms, it's perfectly okay to limit your exposure to them. Ultimately, the goal is to strengthen your self-image to weather whatever comes your way. When subtle insults emerge, focus on your response instead of the insult itself. Each time you practice defending your space with confidence, you bolster your self-worth. Remember, your journey is unique. Celebrate your progress and the resilience you build along the way. A practical tip to carry with you is to have a go-to affirmation that you repeat when faced with criticism. Something like, "I am enough just as I am," can serve as a strong reminder of your inherent worth, fostering a mindset that repels covert negativity. Chapter 15: Fearmongering. Instilling fear to control actions and choices. Fearmongering is a powerful technique used to manipulate emotions and control choices. It involves spreading information or creating scenarios that instill fear in individuals, often exaggerating threats or dangers to push a narrative. Common tactics include sensationalizing statistics or events, exploiting existing anxieties, and presenting hypothetical scenarios as inevitable outcomes. For instance, news outlets might highlight the worst-case scenarios during discussions about public health, leading audiences to form irrational fears regarding their safety or well-being. Advertisements often use similar tactics, suggesting that failure to purchase a product could lead to disastrous consequences, thereby leveraging our instinct to avoid risk and protect ourselves. Additionally, fearmongering is not limited to media. It can infiltrate personal relationships and workplaces. People may use guilt and intimidation to control others' behaviors, often disguising their tactics as concern or caution. This social manipulation is pervasive and can lead individuals to suppress their true feelings or conform to what is pressured upon them. In this environment, decision-making becomes skewed, as choices are driven more by fear than by rational thinking. Encountering this manipulation can feel suffocating, as it challenges our ability to trust our instincts and make autonomous decisions. The influence of fear-based manipulation on decision-making cannot be underestimated. When faced with fear, our brain often shifts to a defensive mode, activating the fight-or-flight response. This can lead to quick, emotional decisions rather than thoughtful choices. For instance, during moments of panic, we may opt for the extremes, either embracing strict measures to alleviate fear or, conversely, denying the fear altogether and making reckless choices. This duality complicates our ability to evaluate risks effectively. It can create a cycle where fear perpetuates anxiety, which in turn affects our choices and further restricts our freedom. Moreover, fear-based manipulation can erode trust in various facets of life. When we begin to doubt our ability to make informed decisions, we may lean on external sources for guidance, often seeking comfort from those who perpetuate fear. This dependency can hinder personal growth and decision-making, locking us in a cycle of uncertainty and reliance. It's crucial to recognize when fear is being used as a tool of control. Becoming aware of the sources of fear can empower us to question the motives behind them, helping to navigate through decision-making with a clearer mindset. One practical approach to counter this influence is to regularly engage in critical thinking exercises. When we confront our fears with analysis rather than impulse, we reclaim the power to decide for ourselves, ultimately fostering healthier choices in our lives. How to separate facts from fear-based manipulation. In today's world, we are bombarded with information that can often trigger fear and anxiety. Understanding how to sift through these messages is essential. Start by asking questions about the source of the information. Who is sharing this message? Is it a credible news organization or an opinion piece from an unknown author? Recognizing the source helps to gauge the reliability of the information. Next, consider the purpose behind the message. Is it designed to inform, or does it seek to provoke a strong emotional reaction? Fear-based messages often oversimplify complex issues to elicit a swift emotional response, making it crucial to look for nuanced discussions that provide context. Taking a moment to fact-check claims through reliable websites, such as Snopes or factcheck.org, can demystify the intended panic and offer a clearer perspective. Developing a habit of asking critical questions can be empowering. When confronted with alarming news, try to step back and examine the evidence presented. What statistics are shared? Are they current, relevant, and contextualized properly? Watch for sensationalist language designed to stir up fear. Words like crisis, disaster, or emergency can cloud judgment. Also, be aware of confirmation bias, our tendency to seek out information that aligns with our existing beliefs. It's helpful to push ourselves to encounter diverse viewpoints. By exposing ourselves to a variety of perspectives, we can combat the oversimplified narratives that often emerge in fear-driven rhetoric. Mindfulness plays a significant role in how we engage with information. When we consume media, it helps to take a moment to breathe and become aware of our emotional reactions. Are we feeling anxious or frightened? Acknowledging these feelings allows us to pause before reacting. This mindfulness can significantly alter our approach to information. Instead of immediately sharing sensational news with others, consider the impact of what you are about to circulate. Could it contribute to a culture of fear, or is it a constructive piece that fosters understanding and dialogue? Ethically participating in information dissemination means ensuring we are not perpetuating misinformation ourselves. If we take the time to evaluate not only what we consume, but also what we share, we create a ripple effect of responsibility. Engaging in conversations about the importance of critical thinking can inspire others in our circles to adopt a more discerning approach. Practicing patience and consideration before reacting to fear-based messages fuels a collective shift towards thoughtful discourse. Always remember that every response shapes the narrative, so we should strive to contribute to a more balanced and factual conversation. As a practical tip, create a media consumption schedule that includes time for reflection. Designate specific times to check news, and then allow yourself moments after to digest and critically assess the information before reacting. This simple practice can cultivate a more thoughtful and informed approach toward media consumption, allowing you to separate facts from fear. Chapter 16. Moving the Goalposts. Constantly changing expectations to keep others off balance. Changing expectations is a tactic that's often employed to create a level of confusion that destabilizes relationships and leaves individuals questioning their standing. It's a subtle manipulation that makes it difficult for others to keep track of what is expected of them. One might notice this behavior in various scenarios, from personal relationships to workplace dynamics. For instance, an individual may set a standard, only to shift it unexpectedly. At first, it may appear as though they are seeking improvement or efficiency, but in reality, they are often engaged in a game designed to keep others feeling uneasy and off balance. This tactic is not just about changing goals, but doing so in a way that makes others feel as if they are failing or unable to meet their ever-evolving standards. The impact of this manipulative behavior on self-esteem and trust can be significant. When someone is subjected to constantly fluctuating expectations, it creates a breeding ground for self-doubt. Individuals start to second-guess their capabilities and decisions, feeling like they are in a never-ending cycle of trying to meet something intangible. This vulnerability can lead to anxiety, as people find themselves constantly on edge, unsure of how to please or satisfy the other person. Trust erodes as well. When expectations shift unpredictably, it creates a landscape where one cannot rely on the words or actions of others. Instead of feeling secure, relationships become a puzzle that leaves individuals feeling lost and uncertain. Understanding this tactic is crucial, as it empowers those on the receiving end to recognize the signs and protect their own emotional well-being. When you find yourself in a situation where expectations seem to shift frequently, take a moment to reflect on the relationship dynamics at play. Establish clear boundaries and communicate openly about what you need. It's essential to foster relationships grounded in trust and clarity, so that changing expectations do not turn into a weapon used against you. Building your resilience against such manipulative behaviors can make a significant difference in how you navigate challenging interpersonal situations. Setting boundaries to combat shifting demands. To set clear boundaries, it's essential to first understand what your limits are. Think about the areas in your life where you feel overwhelmed or strained. These feelings can guide you to identify where you need to draw the line. Once you have a clear sense of your own limits, the next step is communication. Use straightforward language when you express your boundaries to others. For example, saying "I can't take on any new projects right now" is both clear and assertive. It's also important to be consistent. If you waver, others may take that as a sign that your boundaries are negotiable. Remember, boundaries are not about building walls, but creating a space where you can thrive without feeling pressured or stretched too thin. Asserting your needs requires practice, but it can be done with confidence. Start by acknowledging your right to your space and your time. This is crucial. It's not selfish to put yourself first. When you voice your expectations and needs, do so with assurance. Phrasing matters, so instead of using uncertain language like "I would appreciate it if you could," try saying "I need you to." This shift in wording conveys a stronger message and encourages others to respect your wishes. When you assert your needs boldly, you model this behavior for those around you, and as a result, it becomes easier for them to respect your boundaries. Open the conversation by inviting others to share their needs too. This not only facilitates a healthy dialogue, but also affirms that everyone's boundaries deserve respect. Aim to create an environment where assertiveness is welcomed. Always remember, setting boundaries is an ongoing process, and it may take time for both you and those around you to adjust. Revisit your boundaries regularly, especially when you feel shifts in demands. As life evolves, so will your needs. Take the time to check in with yourself and reassess whether your boundaries still serve you well. By fostering a culture of respect for boundaries, you foster healthier relationships, reduce stress, and create an environment where you can be your best self. Chapter 17: Passive-Aggressiveness. Using indirect hostility to manipulate outcomes. Passive-aggressive behavior can often be tricky to identify. It's a pattern of indirectly expressing negative feelings instead of openly addressing them. People exhibiting this behavior may seem agreeable on the surface, but below that facade is a simmering undercurrent of resentment or hostility. Common signs include sarcasm, procrastination, stubbornness, and sulking. These behaviors might manifest in the workplace when a colleague pretends to agree with a project, but then subtly drags his feet on delivering his part. Alternatively, it could show up in personal relationships when a partner claims things are fine while their actions suggest otherwise. The contradiction between words and actions creates confusion, often trapping both parties in a cycle of miscommunication. When passive aggression enters the conversation, it can transform honest dialogue into a game of emotional chess. For instance, imagine having a discussion about household responsibilities. If one person feels overwhelmed but doesn't communicate those feelings directly, they might start doing household chores poorly or neglecting them altogether. This tactic creates tension and resentment rather than prompting a constructive conversation about feelings and needs. The recipient of this behavior may find themselves questioning what went wrong, desperately trying to decode the mixed signals. Misunderstandings blossom in the silence between what was said and what one truly feels. Eventually, this spirals into arguments that seem to come out of nowhere, often focusing on trivialities rather than the true underlying issues. It's crucial to recognize this pattern for what it is: a distortion of open and healthy communication. Recognizing the signs of passive aggression is the first step toward breaking this damaging cycle. To cultivate healthier communication habits, strive for transparency and honesty. Encourage open conversations where feelings can be shared without fear of judgment. If you sense passive-aggressive tendencies creeping into conversations, take a step back and initiate a dialogue that invites openness. By creating an environment where honesty reigns, it becomes easier to discuss frustrations before they fester into deeper issues. Confronting passive-aggressive behavior effectively. Addressing passive-aggressive behavior requires a proactive approach that not only recognizes the signs, but also deals with them constructively. Whenever I find myself in a situation where I suspect passive-aggressiveness, I focus on creating an environment where the underlying feelings can be addressed without judgment. I've learned that one effective technique is to express my own feelings honestly. By sharing how certain behaviors affect me, I set the tone for deeper engagement. I try to say something like, "I feel confused when you say one thing but do another," which opens the door for dialogue. This technique often leads the other person to reflect and discuss their emotions more openly, making it easier to navigate the tense waters of passive-aggressive behavior. Another powerful tactic involves asking open-ended questions that encourage reflection. Instead of assuming intentions, I ask questions like, "What are your thoughts on this situation?" This invites the other person to share their perspective and potentially reveal their frustrations. It's fascinating how often people only need a nudge to express what they really think, even if they've been resistant at first. Establishing a solid foundation of understanding and showing a willingness to listen can dismantle barriers that passive-aggressiveness often erects. Establishing and encouraging open communication is the key to reducing misunderstandings. When I make it a point to regularly check in with those around me, whether in friendships or professional relationships, it often leads to greater clarity. I take time to express gratitude and appreciation, which creates a rapport that makes it easier for others to share their thoughts without fear of confrontation. I remind myself that fostering a safe space can significantly diminish the chances of passive-aggressive behavior manifesting. For anyone facing a similar challenge, a practical tip is to start every conversation with something positive, as it often sets a collaborative tone and minimizes defensiveness. Chapter 18: The Blame Game. Shifting responsibility to avoid accountability. In life, we often encounter situations where someone deflects blame, a tactic that can silently erode relationships over time. I've seen this in many forms, from minor misunderstandings to major conflicts. The moment one party shifts responsibility, it creates a ripple effect that often leaves the other person feeling frustrated and unheard. When blame is deflected, the individual who originally caused the issue is no longer held accountable for their actions. This creates an imbalance. The The blamer walks away unscathed, while the one wronged feels the weight of unjust guilt. This dance of deflection doesn't just impact the immediate situation, it breeds resentment, mistrust, and ultimately disconnect. I recall a time at work when a project I led went awry due to a critical oversight. Instead of taking responsibility, a colleague pointed fingers at me. The blame game not only strained our professional relationship, but also diminished teamwork and collaboration. Every time blame is shifted onto someone else, it taints the foundation of trust that relationships, be they personal or professional, rely on. Experiencing the consequences of this blame can be emotionally draining for those unfairly labeled as responsible. I've spoken with countless individuals who felt the sting of unjust blame, and it often leads to a range of negative emotions, from anger to embarrassment. They wrestle with feelings of inadequacy, questioning their own contributions and worth. It's as if a dark cloud hangs over their heads, casting doubt on their abilities and judgment. I remember speaking with a friend who was unfairly blamed for a team failure. She recounted how it shook her confidence, making her reluctant to offer ideas or take risks in the future. Her experience highlights an important truth. The weight of unfair blame can linger long after the incident itself. Those subjected to blame often experience anxiety, stress, and can struggle to maintain their self-esteem. This emotional toll isn't just an individual issue. It seeps into the fabric of relationships, affecting communication and connection, leading to a vicious cycle of misunderstanding and resentment. Ultimately, recognizing the detrimental effects of shifting responsibility is key to nurturing healthier relationships. Open and honest communication can break the cycle of blame. When we own our mistakes, we foster an environment of trust and understanding. It's also helpful to create spaces where all parties can express feelings without fear of being blamed. Taking a moment to reflect before pointing fingers can alter the trajectory of a conversation from confrontation to collaboration. Remembering that everyone is human and makes mistakes can help us remain compassionate toward each other. By promoting accountability, we not only strengthen our relationships, but also enhance our self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Techniques to hold manipulators accountable. Blame shifting is a common tactic employed by manipulators, and confronting this behavior can be challenging. I have found that one effective approach is to stay calm and assertive during discussions. When a manipulator attempts to divert blame, I address their attempt directly by stating, "I believe this situation arose from actions we both took." This not only clarifies the issue, but also puts the responsibility back on the individual. It's crucial to use specific examples to illustrate how their actions contributed to the problem, ensuring they cannot evade accountability. By maintaining a firm yet respectful stance, I create a dialogue that fosters an environment where their efforts to deflect blame are less effective. Encouraging personal accountability in ourselves and others goes a long way in countering manipulative behavior. I advocate for cultivating an environment of responsibility by first leading by example. When I own up to my mistakes, I inspire those around me to do the same. Sharing stories of accountability can be powerful. When my team or family sees me admitting faults and working towards solutions, it creates a safer space for others to follow suit. Emphasizing the idea that mistakes are opportunities for growth rather than failures shifts the focus from blame to improvement. This perspective fosters a culture where each individual feels empowered to acknowledge their roles and contribute to solutions, which is essential in battling manipulators. To enhance accountability, I also recommend regular reflection sessions, whether in personal relationships or at work. Discussing what went well and what didn't provides a platform for open communication and understanding. It helps to clarify intentions and actions, diminishing the room for blame shifting. Furthermore, setting clear expectations and goals ensures everyone knows their responsibilities. By doing this, we cultivate a sense of ownership that discourages manipulative tactics. When individuals recognize that their contributions are important and their behaviors have consequences, they are less inclined to engage in blame shifting. Remember, accountability is not merely a strategy. It's a mindset that we can develop and reinforce together. Taking these steps can significantly reduce the power manipulators have over us, allowing for healthier relationships and environments. Chapter 19: Emotional Overload. Overwhelming someone with emotional displays to force compliance. Emotional overload occurs when someone experiences a flood of emotions, which can cloud their judgment and rational thinking. It's fascinating how emotions, when amplified, can shift our perception and decision-making processes. The effects of emotional overload are often underestimated. People who are subjected to strong emotional displays can feel an overwhelming sense of pressure, which may lead them to comply with requests, not because they want to, but because their ability to think critically is compromised. There's a complex interplay here. When someone is emotionally charged, their instinct may take precedence over reason, leading to impulsive decisions that can be regretted later. This is why understanding the dynamics of emotional overload is critical, especially in scenarios where decisions are needed. Using emotional displays to manipulate others is indeed a strategy that, while ethically questionable, is frequently employed in various settings. The key lies in timing and intensity. A well-timed emotional appeal can trigger a response from others that opens the door to compliance. For instance, expressing vulnerability or deep sadness can evoke sympathy, prompting others to come to your aid or comply with your wishes, often without conscious deliberation. The intensity of these emotions matters, too. Subtlety can be less effective than an overt display of emotion that captures attention and compels action. In many cases, individuals may not realize they are being manipulated until they have already acquiesced to demands they would typically resist, emphasizing the power that emotional displays hold. Consider the situation when someone is visibly distressed during a conversation. This display can create an atmosphere that feels charged with urgency, causing observers to prioritize emotional relief over critical evaluation of the situation. This is where the art of persuasion through emotional overload becomes particularly poignant. While I encourage striving for honesty and integrity in interactions, it's worthwhile to understand these dynamics. Recognizing when you might be influenced by someone else's emotional state can be a useful safeguard. Practicing emotional intelligence and self-awareness can help maintain clarity in decision-making, ensuring that responses are based on reason rather than emotional coercion. Strategies to maintain emotional boundaries. Establishing and maintaining emotional boundaries is essential for both personal well-being and healthy relationships. It starts with self-awareness. Understanding your feelings and recognizing what feels right or wrong is key. Once you gain clarity about your emotional needs, the next step is to communicate those needs effectively to others. This may involve expressing your feelings openly when someone crosses a line, or simply taking a step back when you feel overwhelmed. It's important to remember that you have the right to say no without guilt. Setting firm but respectful limits helps others understand how to interact with you, allowing for healthier exchanges. Additionally, practicing self-care can significantly reinforce these boundaries. Taking time for yourself to recharge and reflect enables you to approach emotional situations with a clearer mind and a stronger sense of self. A reflective approach to emotional exchanges can transform the way you connect with others. This means pausing to think before reacting emotionally, which allows you to respond rather than react. When emotions run high, it can be tempting to engage without considering the impact of your words or actions. By taking a moment to breathe and reflect, you can assess whether what you are feeling is a response to the current situation or perhaps tied to past experiences. Journaling or engaging in mindful practices, such as meditation, can be helpful here. These practices encourage introspection and promote awareness in emotional exchanges, leading to deeper insights about your interactions and relationships. By prioritizing reflection, you not only protect your emotional space, but also create a safe environment for others to express themselves, fostering mutual respect. In every emotional interaction, there's an opportunity to practice patience and understanding with yourself and others. By recognizing that emotional boundaries are fluid and may change over time, you can adapt your strategies accordingly. Always remember that it's perfectly okay to reevaluate your boundaries as you grow and develop. Keep a mental checklist of your emotional triggers and consider how they influence your reactions. This awareness can guide you in maintaining those boundaries effectively. Ultimately, the goal is to cultivate an environment where both you and the people around you feel respected and secure. One practical tip is to regularly check in with yourself. Ask not only how you feel, but why you feel that way, and whether those feelings remind you of past experiences. This can illuminate your emotional landscape and help you navigate it with more confidence. Chapter 20. The False Apology. Apologies that manipulate rather than mend. False apologies often creep into our interactions, slipping under the radar dressed in the guise of genuine remorse. They may sound similar to heartfelt apologies, but their essence is rooted in manipulation rather than true contrition. When someone offers a false apology, it typically serves an agenda, whether that agenda is to deflect blame, regain control, or simply pacify an immediate confrontation. The words may be the same, "I'm sorry," but the intent can be dramatically different. Nuances like tone, body language, and the timing of the apology play pivotal roles in its reception. A hurried sorry, delivered in a dismissive tone, suggests a lack of sincerity, while an overdramatic display might be a ploy to shift focus away from the wrongdoing. Recognizing these subtle indicators is essential for discerning the true nature of an apology and can save us from falling prey to emotional manipulation. There are specific situations where apologies ring hollow, and being able to identify them can empower us in our personal and professional lives. One common scenario is when the person apologizing quickly pivots the conversation back to themselves. This self-centered approach reveals that the intention is not to acknowledge or rectify harm done, but rather to alleviate their own discomfort. Furthermore, if the apology is followed by excuses or justifications, it undermines any semblance of sincerity. For instance, saying, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but I didn't mean it," distances the speaker from accountability, shifting the burden instead to the recipient of the apology. Additionally, a pattern of repeated offenses without genuine effort to change behavior can signal that the apologies offered are mere smoke screens. Words devoid of real action often repeat themselves under similar circumstances. Observing these behaviors in our relationships can help break cycles of manipulation, allowing for healthier, more authentic connections. Next time you encounter an apology, pay close attention not just to the words, but to the surroundings, the body language, and the emotional context. The more you practice this skilled observation, the better you will become at recognizing false apologies and navigating the complexities of interpersonal communication with greater awareness. Recognizing and responding to insincere remorse. It's disheartening to face someone's apology and sense that it's anything but genuine. A false apology often comes wrapped in certain warning signs that, once recognized, can help you navigate the tricky feelings that arise. Pay close attention to the language used. Phrases like "I'm sorry you feel that way" or "if I offended you" are often red flags. They deflect responsibility and instead focus on your feelings rather than their actions. Body language can also speak volumes. Someone who is truly remorseful typically shows openness, maintaining eye contact and exhibiting an earnest demeanor. Conversely, if their posture is closed off or they avoid eye contact altogether, it can signal that their apology stems more from obligation than sincerity. Additionally, consider the timing of the apology. If it comes immediately after a heated situation, it might be a knee-jerk reaction rather than a heartfelt admission of wrongdoing. When faced with insincere remorse, responding assertively is crucial. Begin by acknowledging the apology, but don't feel obligated to accept it without question. You can express that you appreciate the intention behind the apology, but need to clarify your feelings about the situation. It's perfectly valid to explain how their actions affected you and to highlight the discrepancy between their words and their behavior. By doing this, you're not only affirming your feelings, but also setting a precedent for future interactions. It's important to communicate your expectations moving forward. A genuine conversation can often lead to improved understanding and accountability, encouraging them to reflect on their behavior. If they continue to show patterns of insincerity, know that you have the right to distance yourself or rethink the dynamics of the relationship. Remember, recognizing insincere remorse is not just about protecting yourself. It's also about understanding relationships better. Trust your instincts and don't hesitate to voice your feelings. If something feels off, it probably is. Engage in dialogue that emphasizes honesty, both for your sake and for the sake of the relationship. Developing this skill not only fosters healthier connections, but also cultivates your self-worth. Always remember that your feelings are valid, and you deserve interactions grounded in authenticity and respect. Chapter 21: Building Emotional Resilience. Strengthening self-esteem and emotional intelligence. Enhancing self-esteem and emotional resilience often feels like a personal journey filled with ups and downs. I've found that embracing my unique qualities is essential. Recognizing what makes me me has helped establish a solid foundation for my self-esteem. Each success, no matter how small, contributes to this foundation. It's remarkable how much our inner dialogue shapes our perception. By replacing negative self-talk with affirmations of worth, I've gradually built a healthier self-image. Cultivating emotional resilience also plays a crucial role. This means learning to bounce back from setbacks. When faced with challenges, I remind myself that these moments don't define my entire existence. Rather, they're stepping stones towards growth. Engaging in practices like mindfulness has been tremendously beneficial. By staying present, I can observe my thoughts without judgment and better understand my emotional responses. This exploration of my feelings fosters a safer emotional space, allowing me to confront difficulties with clarity rather than fear. Understanding the significance of emotional intelligence in resisting manipulation cannot be understated. I've realized that being emotionally intelligent arms me with the tools to navigate interpersonal dynamics more effectively. It involves recognizing and managing my emotions while also empathizing with others. This dual awareness works wonders when dealing with people who may try to manipulate situations to their advantage. I've learned to identify red flags. For instance, when someone continuously invalidates my feelings or tries to create unnecessary conflict, my emotional intelligence helps me understand their motives. Instead of reacting impulsively, I take a step back, analyze the situation, and respond strategically. This ability to maintain self-awareness protects me from being swayed by harmful influences. Moreover, emotional intelligence allows me to articulate my feelings clearly, asserting my boundaries without aggression. Establishing these boundaries fosters healthier communication, making it harder for manipulative tactics to take root. To strengthen self-esteem and improve emotional intelligence, I've discovered that engaging in thoughtful reflection is a powerful practice. Taking time to journal about my experiences, emotions, and growth sets a precedent for awareness. This practice not only surfaces insights but also reinforces my journey toward embracing who I am, flaws and all. By regularly checking in with myself, I create a robust internal dialogue that builds resilience and confidence. Combining these self-reflective practices with open discussions with trusted friends or mentors enriches my understanding. Building a support network offers different perspectives and reinforces my sense of belonging and value. Keeping these conversations honest and supportive deepens emotional understanding and strengthens my defenses against any manipulation I may encounter. Developing a clear sense of personal boundaries. Establishing healthy personal boundaries is crucial for maintaining a sense of self and fostering healthy relationships. It begins with understanding what boundaries truly mean for you and recognizing your emotional and physical limits. Boundaries are not walls that isolate us. Rather, they are markers that define where you end and another person begins. To establish these boundaries, take a moment to reflect on your values and needs. What makes you feel safe and respected? Identifying these aspects allows you to communicate them effectively to others. It's important to remember that setting boundaries can be uncomfortable. It may involve saying no or asserting yourself in ways that feel foreign at first. Practice is key. Start with small, manageable boundaries and gradually build up to larger ones. This gradual approach reduces the risk of feeling overwhelmed while allowing you to see the benefits of your efforts. Prioritizing your emotional well-being is vital when developing your boundaries. It's easy to dismiss your feelings in favor of pleasing others, but doing so often leads to resentment and emotional exhaustion. Make a commitment to yourself to honor your needs, even if that means disappointing someone else. You are not responsible for managing the emotions of others. Your primary responsibility is to care for yourself. This may mean stepping back from relationships that consistently drain your energy or communicating more openly about your feelings. Remember, emotional well-being thrives in an environment of respect and understanding. Prioritize interactions that uplift you and foster connections that honor your boundaries. To make this journey smoother, consider journaling your thoughts and feelings regarding boundaries. Documenting your experiences can provide clarity about what you want and need. It creates a space for self-reflection and allows you to track your progress over time. This practice helps you recognize patterns and triggers, enabling you to adjust your boundaries as needed. Keep in mind that setting boundaries is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process that evolves as you grow and change. Treat yourself with kindness as you embark on this empowering journey of self-discovery and emotional resilience. Chapter 22: The Power of Awareness. Spotting manipulation in real time. Recognizing manipulation as it happens can be challenging, but with some practical tips, it becomes easier. The first thing to pay attention to is the emotional tone of a conversation. Manipulators often use strong emotional appeals to sway others, making statements designed to provoke a specific response. For example, if someone is trying to make you feel guilty or overly responsible for their feelings, that might be a red flag. Body language is another key indicator. Be mindful of inconsistencies between what people say and how they act. If someone is professing concern but their posture is closed or aggressive, it indicates a deeper agenda. Also, listen closely to the words being used. Change in language, especially if it escalates suddenly to more extreme terms or ultimatums, often signals manipulation. Keeping an eye on these elements during conversations can help you stay alert and aware of what's truly happening. Trust your instincts. If a situation feels off, it probably is. Encouraging a proactive stance in social interactions is essential for navigating potentially manipulative dynamics. Approaching conversations with openness can create a space where others feel safe to express themselves without hidden motives. When I engage with someone, I remind myself to maintain a strong sense of self and clarity about my values and boundaries. If something doesn't feel right, instead of going along with it, I ask questions that invite the other person to clarify their intentions. This not only empowers me, but also tends to disarm the manipulator. I've found that stating my observations honestly has a powerful effect too. For instance, if I sense someone is trying to guide the conversation in an uncomfortable direction, mentioning it directly can shift the dynamics. This kind of proactive behavior transforms me from a passive participant into an active player in my social interactions. Positive social exchanges emerge from a place of confidence and clarity. Building awareness around manipulation and taking a proactive approach is a skill that improves with practice. The key takeaway here is to develop a habit of self-reflection after social interactions. Ask yourself how you felt during the conversation and whether anything stood out as unusual. Keeping a mental note of these experiences will sharpen your ability to detect manipulation over time. Trust your feelings and observations. They are your best allies in maintaining healthy relationships. Using mindfulness to stay grounded and alert. Mindfulness techniques can significantly enhance our awareness of the present moment, allowing us to cultivate a deeper connection with what is happening around us. One of the most effective practices I've found is focused breathing. It's as simple as taking a few deep breaths, focusing on the sensation of the air entering and leaving my body. This practice has a remarkable ability to pull me out of my racing thoughts and into the here and now. Another technique is body scanning, where I intentionally focus on different parts of my body, noticing any sensations or tensions without judgment. This can help ground me and remind me that I am here, in this moment, with my own feelings and experiences. Journaling is also an incredible tool to foster awareness. By writing down my thoughts and feelings, I create space to reflect, understand, and process what's happening internally, which ultimately sharpens my sense of awareness. Incorporating these techniques into my daily routine has kept me present during hectic moments, allowing me to navigate life with clarity. Mindfulness plays a crucial role in protecting ourselves from manipulation, whether it comes from external influences or internal doubts. When I practice being mindful, I notice the subtle shifts in my mood and thought patterns. This heightened awareness allows me to recognize when I am being pushed into a particular direction that doesn't feel right. For instance, in social situations, I can identify when I feel pressured to conform to others' beliefs or desires. By staying grounded in my own feelings and values, I can draw boundaries and make choices that align with my true self. This practice helps me to remain alert, turning down the volume on external expectations and tuning into my intuition. When I am fully present, I can better evaluate situations without getting swept away by persuasive tactics or emotional appeals. This equanimity is essential, especially in today's fast-paced world, where manipulation can often disguise itself as genuine concern or urgency. Building a consistent mindfulness practice provides not just immediate relaxation, but equips me with a long-lasting mental framework to engage with the world more thoughtfully. Even dedicating just a few minutes each day to these exercises can create significant changes in how I navigate challenges and interpersonal dynamics. Consider setting aside specific times in your day to practice these techniques, turning them into rituals that ground you and keep you alert. This approach can help you react to life's moments with more intention and clarity, resisting manipulation and forming a stronger connection to your authentic self. Chapter 23: Assertive Communication. Techniques to respond effectively to manipulators. Exploring communication strategies that enhance assertiveness is crucial when dealing with manipulators. I've learned that being assertive isn't just about speaking your mind. It's about doing so in a way that commands respect while also acknowledging the beliefs of others. One key strategy is to use I statements, which helps express your feelings without sounding accusatory. For instance, instead of saying, "You always make me feel guilty," I could say, "I feel uncomfortable when the conversation goes in that direction." This subtle shift in language keeps the focus on my feelings and reduces the likelihood of the other person becoming defensive. Moreover, maintaining eye contact and a steady tone conveys confidence, which is essential in setting boundaries. When I practice these strategies, I feel more in control, which is empowering and liberating. Providing practical applications for responding to manipulation requires an understanding of specific scenarios. One effective approach I discovered is to recognize the signs of manipulation. Often, manipulators will use guilt or blame as tools. Recognizing this can help me respond thoughtfully. When faced with manipulation, I can pause before reacting, giving myself time to process the situation. A practical response might be to say, "I need a moment to think about this," which discourages further pressure while providing space for me to formulate a response. Another technique is to practice assertive refusal. For example, when someone asks for a favor that I cannot accommodate, I express my limits clearly, saying something like, "I can't help with this right now, but I appreciate you thinking of me." This sets a decisive boundary while remaining polite, ensuring that I don't compromise my own needs. As I integrate these techniques into my daily interactions, I notice a marked improvement in the quality of my relationships. Understanding how to effectively respond to manipulators doesn't just enhance my communication skills, it also strengthens my self-esteem. Remember, it's important to stay true to oneself in the face of pressure. Whenever I encounter manipulation, taking a step back to assess my feelings and the situation allows me to respond with clarity and confidence. The next time someone tries to sway me, I can remind myself, my feelings are valid and my boundaries are essential. This shift in mindset is a practical tip I hold close, enabling me to navigate my interactions with grace and assertiveness. Saying no with confidence and grace. Refusing a request can often make us feel uneasy, yet establishing a framework for how to convey our no can empower us. Understanding that a polite decline doesn't have to be apologetic allows us to communicate clearly and confidently. One effective approach is to remember the 3 key components of a graceful refusal: affirmation, reason, and closure. Start by acknowledging the request. This shows respect for the other person's feelings. Rather than launching directly into a no, say something like, "I truly appreciate you thinking of me for this project." Next, provide a brief reason for your refusal, ensuring it is firm yet respectful. It could be about your current commitments, personal interests, or even values. Lastly, close the conversation on a positive note. A simple, "I wish you the best with it," signals that while you are declining, you still care about the outcome. Embracing the power of saying no is not just about declining requests. It's about reclaiming our time and energy. When we learn to say no, we make space for what truly matters to us. This act is fundamentally about self-respect and setting boundaries. Reflecting on my own experiences, I remember times when I said yes against my better judgment, only to feel drained and resentful. It was in these moments that I realized that every time I said yes to something that didn't serve me, I was inadvertently saying no to opportunities that could. By practicing saying no with confidence and grace, we allow ourselves to be intentional with how we fill our lives. Each polite, firm refusal strengthens our ability to advocate for ourselves, underscoring our priorities and values. As you practice, remember that every no is a step toward living authentically and aligning your actions with your aspirations. A practical tip to get started. When faced with a request, take a moment before answering. This pause can provide you with the clarity needed to respond in a way that honors both your needs and the other person's request. Chapter 24: The Importance of a Support System. How trusted relationships can shield you from manipulation. A supportive network plays a critical role in fostering emotional resilience. When I think back on the times I faced overwhelming challenges, it often wasn't just my own strength that got me through. It was the presence of friends and loved ones who stood by me, offering encouragement and a listening ear. These relationships created a safe space where I could express my fears and uncertainties without judgment. They reminded me that I wasn't alone, and this sense of belonging helped me center my thoughts, build my confidence, and ultimately navigate through tough situations with more clarity. Without this solid foundation, I might have easily succumbed to outside pressures or manipulative influences that sought to exploit my vulnerabilities. Trusted relationships do wonders for our overall well-being, acting like a protective barrier against life's emotional turbulence. The times I've shared joyful moments or just casual chats with friends have filled my life with vitality and happiness. These connections are not only a source of support, but also a powerful antidote to stress. Knowing that someone cares about me deeply has been a driving force behind my ability to keep fast-paced worries at bay. They ground me in reality and provide a sense of perspective that might be lost when I am feeling overwhelmed. By engaging in honest conversations and sharing experiences, we reaffirm our worth and gain insights that bolster our resilience. Building and maintaining these trusted relationships is integral to keeping manipulation at bay. It's easy to get swept away in a sea of opinions and influences, but when you have a supportive network, you can hear a counter-narrative amidst the noise. These relationships encourage healthy skepticism, allowing us to question motives and intentions without fear. By surrounding ourselves with people who genuinely care for our well-being, we equip ourselves with the tools and filters necessary to discern what is real and what might be an emotional trap. One practical tip to enhance these connections is to actively invest time in nurturing them. Whether it's scheduling regular catch-ups or simply being available to lend a hand, the small efforts can yield significant benefits in terms of emotional strength and protection from manipulation. Rebuilding your network if you've been isolated. Reconnecting with my past support networks felt like stepping back into a world I had momentarily forgotten. It's easy to let the days turn into months and even years without reaching out. I started by taking a small step. I pulled out my old phone contacts and social media friends. I focused on friendly cues, people I felt comfortable with, those who had been supportive or fun to be around. A simple, "How have you been?" can ignite a connection that might lead to rekindling the warmth of those past relationships. Many of them may have also missed the camaraderie, and often it just takes one person to break the ice and restore the connection. I began by sending messages, arranging casual meetups for coffee, or inviting them to a local event. It was uplifting to discover that many people were more than willing to jump back into conversation and share stories of their own experiences during the isolation. After reaching back into my past connections, I realized that investing in new relationships was just as crucial for moving forward. The world was changing, and I wanted to grow alongside it. I began exploring new activities like joining community classes or local clubs that aligned with my interests. Each new experience brought me face to face with different people who had unique stories and backgrounds. I learned that building new relationships takes courage, but can also be incredibly rewarding. Approaching someone new can be daunting, yet there's an excitement in forging new bonds. Seeking out local events, volunteering, or even participating in online communities allowed me to engage with diverse individuals who were also looking to connect. Each conversation, each shared moment, brought a sense of renewal to my social life. One practical tip that helped me along this journey was to envision each new interaction as a potential friendship in bloom. Whether it's someone you meet in a class or a fellow volunteer, keep in mind that relationships require nurture and care. Make an effort to follow up after your first meeting, whether it's over a casual drink or simply shifting the conversation to a shared interest. Consistency can be the key to turning a one-time encounter into a lasting connection. Remember, the best networks often come from the most unexpected places, so keep your heart and mind open to possibilities. Conclusion: reclaiming your power. Embracing self-awareness and personal growth. Reflecting on my journey has taught me the importance of recognizing the subtle ways manipulation can creep into our lives. There were moments when I didn't realize I was being influenced by others, often because I was too comfortable in my routine or too trusting of those around me. It took time to develop a keen sense of self-awareness, to understand my own feelings and reactions, and to see situations from different perspectives. By examining my past experiences, I uncovered patterns in my interactions that pointed to the lessons I needed to learn. Awareness became my compass, guiding me through social dynamics that I had previously taken for granted. I encourage you to take the time to reflect on your own journey. Think about the moments when you felt pressured to conform or when someone else's opinion swayed your decisions. Recognizing these instances is the first step towards breaking free from the chains of manipulation. This awareness not only empowers you, but also equips you with the tools needed to protect yourself against future attempts. Each realization can be a stepping stone toward deeper understanding and growth. Personal development is an ongoing journey that acts as a robust shield against manipulation. As I committed to continuous learning, I found myself better equipped to differentiate between constructive advice and coercive influence. Investing in myself meant reading books, engaging in thoughtful discussions, and seeking out experiences that enriched my understanding of the world. This process of growth provided me with the clarity to recognize when I was being manipulated. I began to understand that manipulation often thrived in environments where knowledge was scarce and confidence was low. By enhancing my skills and nurturing my interests, I built a solid foundation that bolstered my sense of self. This growth fostered resilience, making it increasingly difficult for others to sway me with their agendas. I encourage you to embrace the idea of lifelong learning. Identify areas in your life where you can grow, whether it's acquiring a new skill, exploring a hobby, or expanding your mind through various forms of media. The more you learn and understand, the more confident you'll become in your choices, steering clear of those who might seek to manipulate you. By embracing self-awareness and committing to personal growth, you can take charge of your life. As you continue this journey, remember that every small step in understanding yourself better contributes to your overall strength and resilience. Surround yourself with people who encourage your growth and challenge you to think critically about your choices. Maintain a journal or engage in mindfulness practices to help clarify your thoughts and feelings, as these tools can be invaluable in assessing situations where manipulation might arise. Most importantly, trust your instincts as you navigate through this complex world. They will lead you to the right paths and help you recognize when it's time to defend your personal boundaries against the manipulative forces that we all inevitably encounter. Turning manipulation encounters into learning opportunities. Life often throws us curveballs in the form of negative experiences. These moments can feel overwhelming, and it's easy to fall into a trap of self-pity or anger. However, I have found that these encounters can serve as valuable lessons if we approach them with the right mindset. The first step is to acknowledge the experience for what it is, a manipulation or betrayal, and then take a step back to reflect. What was the situation? How did it make me feel? By writing down my thoughts or talking them through with a trusted friend, I can slowly uncover the lessons hidden beneath the surface. Instead of focusing on the pain of the experience, I work to identify what I can learn about myself and others. This new perspective becomes a powerful tool for personal development, allowing me to transform a moment of hurt into a chance for growth. Embracing resilience is a crucial part of this learning process. Life is not about avoiding difficulties, it's about how we respond to them. Each time we face manipulation or setbacks, we have an opportunity to build our resilience. I've realized that while I can't control the actions of others, I have full control over my reactions and choices. Every time I rise from a challenging situation, I build my inner strength. This strain, rather than breaking me, molds me into a more robust version of myself. It's essential to remind ourselves of past difficulties we have overcome. They are the building blocks of our resilience. By holding on to these memories, we can remind ourselves that we are capable of navigating future challenges with courage and grace. When negative experiences arise, it's beneficial to take a proactive approach. Instead of waiting for the next setback to knock us down, we can cultivate habits that reinforce our resilience and encourage learning. Journaling, seeking out supportive communities, and practicing mindfulness are some methods I've found effective. Each of these practices provides a foundation that not only prepares me for unexpected challenges, but also enhances the lessons learned from past experiences. Remember, every encounter is a stepping stone toward self-improvement. By treating them as such, we continuously evolve into our best selves, ready to embrace whatever comes next. Living authentically and resisting the urge to manipulate others. Embracing authenticity in our relationships can be a transformative experience. When we allow ourselves to be true to who we are, we create an environment where others feel safe to do the same. This honesty fosters deeper connections, built on trust and mutual respect. I have learned that it is far easier to engage with others when we show up as our genuine selves. Authenticity can feel scary, especially in a world that often rewards facade and manipulation, but revealing our true selves opens the door to meaningful interactions. When we share our thoughts, feelings, and vulnerabilities, we create space for others to reciprocate. Imagine being surrounded by individuals who accept you wholeheartedly for who you are, without the pressure to wear a mask. This can be one of the most liberating experiences in life, as we step away from pretense and fully engage with those around us. Fostering genuine connections devoid of manipulation is essential in cultivating healthy relationships. Manipulation often stems from insecurity, fear, or the desire for control, leading to a toxic dynamic. I've witnessed how such behaviors create walls instead of bridges, hindering true intimacy. When we engage with others on a level that feels honest and respectful, we build a foundation of trust. I've learned to recognize the urge to manipulate, whether it's through guilt, flattery, or coercion, and to resist it. Recognizing this impulse is the first step. The next is to choose kindness instead. Each time I consciously decide to communicate openly, without hidden agendas, I feel a sense of empowerment. The more we practice this authenticity, the less we find ourselves caught in the trap of manipulation. It tends to become second nature to value the relationships we form based on honesty and to appreciate the fulfilling connections that emerge from such honesty. Authenticity can sometimes feel like a risk, but the rewards far outweigh the uncertainties. For practical steps, consider sharing something personal with someone you trust. It could be a simple story or a small struggle you're facing. Watch how this openness invites the other person to reciprocate. By stepping away from attempts to manipulate and instead just being real, we create a ripple effect of genuine connections. Let's remember, the more we embrace authenticity, the richer our lives become. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Mind Games Unveiled, 20 Emotional Manipulation Techniques, written by Mindful Literary. By now, you've uncovered the hidden mechanisms of emotional manipulation. You've learned to recognize the tactics manipulators use and discovered practical tools to counteract their influence. But most importantly, you've gained the knowledge to protect your inner peace and reclaim your power. Life is too precious to be spent playing someone else's game. Instead, you now have the awareness to write your own rules. Use these lessons to strengthen your relationships, assert your boundaries, and live authentically. Remember, the true strength lies not just in resisting manipulation, but in living with intention, honesty, and courage. You hold the power to transform your interactions, not by controlling others, but by staying rooted in your own truth. If you found this audiobook valuable, don't forget to share it with someone who might need it. Your journey of empowerment can inspire others to begin their own. Thank you for listening, and may your newfound awareness guide you to a life of authenticity and freedom.